people around the world, especially the believers, are kind of asleep. Hosea 4 verse 6 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." And it's kind of sad to see that it's God's people that are destroyed. It's not people in the world. And it's not that they're destroyed for lack of spirituality or for lack of intention or for a lack of good heart. It's just basic knowledge sometimes that the people of God are lacking, and that's really sad. And this is why I sat over dinner one time with my wife, and I saw 5 teenagers sitting around the table, and they don't really talk to each other. They're all on their smartphones, looking at that screen, and they're probably talking to 15,000 others on Facebook, but they're not there with one another. And I realized if I ever want to reach these people, probably I have to get to that screen of that cell phone. That's how I developed an app, free app for just information about what's going on in Israel daily. And you can get it. It's called Behold Israel, and it's very easy. And I believe that this world is the media nights, how I call them. They're really out there to destroy and to give you biased information, and we need to understand what really is going on in the Middle East. And so I want to talk this evening about 8 different and very important developments in the Middle East that are happening right now or just happened in the last few weeks that will put everything together. So we're obviously going to talk first about Syria and what is going on in Syria right now. And we have to understand that God has nothing really against a city when it comes to stones or buildings. When God has a burden against something, it's normally against certain people or against the leaders of that certain people. And for the most part, when the prophets were talking about the burden that God has against cities around, for the most part, it was their attitude towards the people of God in that region where they were. And we all know it's not a secret. Syria has never been a great friend of the state of Israel. If we can move on, you'll see that ever since 1948, we talk about an enemy that we had. In 1948, the Bible says that there is a burden against Damascus. It will cease from being a city, and it will be a ruinous heap. That means that city somehow is going to be dealt with by the Lord or somehow by someone else. But one thing is for sure, the fact is that Damascus will no longer exist. The translation of it is the regime will fall. That which is standing today will fall apart. We know that the city of Damascus has been standing there for more than 2,500 years. It's been there in the Bible, both in the Old and the New Testament. It has never been utterly, completely destroyed and never ceased from being a city yet. And that's exactly what Isaiah 46 meant. Things that are not yet done are about to take place. We're a generation that has seen more prophecies being fulfilled than any other generation since the time of Jesus. And obviously, as I said, in 1948, when the state of Israel was born, 5 Arab countries attacked Israel from all around, and Syria was one of them. From the very beginning, they resisted the idea of an existence of the state of Israel. And without any explanation. Nowadays, they'll tell you that we have the Golan Heights, we have the West Bank, we have Gaza Strip. But in 1948, we didn't have the Golan Heights. We didn't have the West Bank. We didn't have the Gaza area. We didn't have any of those disputed territories, yet we were attacked from all directions, and Syria was one of them. And if that was not enough, in 1964, many of you don't even know that, but over a dispute because of the sources of the Jordan River, a war almost broke out in the Middle East between Israel and Syria. And all the people who lived in the northernmost part of Israel had to dig those ditches, as you can see over there. Children were helping the women. Men were in the front line in order to help digging those so they can hide in case something happened. And that was in 1964. In fact, they say that there were 29 cases of fire from Syria towards Israel, and we only retaliated twice, yet the Security Council condemn the use of power by both sides. I love it. The UN, that's why for us the UN stands for United Nothing or for unnecessary. But if that's not enough, intelligence that we got just prior to June of 1967 told us that Syria, Egypt, and Jordan are planning a massive strike on Israel. And as a result, we decided to go on what we call preemptive strike. And within 20 minutes, we destroyed the air force of Egypt and Syria on the ground. And we basically disabled them, and they couldn't move. And within the next 6 days, we were able to quadruple the territory of Israel in a campaign unparalleled in the history of mankind when it comes to battles and wars. But apparently, we got too proud and too arrogant to think that that's it. We are the superpower of the region. And then, of course, came on the most solemn day on the Hebrew calendar, Yom Kippur, October 1973, noontime, in the middle of the Jewish fasting, when we're in the weakest point. I don't know if you ever tried to fast, but when you try to fast at 6 p.m., the next day at 12 p.m., that's the crisis time. You're very thirsty, very hungry, very weak, and that's the time they attacked. In a very interesting way, that was 1973. Israel needed help because we were not only attacked, but it was a massive attack. On the Golan Heights, the Syrians sent 1,500 tanks, where we only had 140. And these were 1,500 brand new T-72 Soviet tanks with the plastic covering them. That's how new they were. I want to tell you something. We were on the verge of collapse and complete annihilation. Our prime minister was very much a good friend of President Richard Nixon at that time. And she allowed herself to pick up the phone and wake him up at 3 a.m., middle of the night. And she said, Mr. President, if in the next 24 to 48 hours America is not going to help Israel, we will not survive. President Nixon said to Golda Meir, you know, Golda, when I was a kid, my mom used to tell me Bible stories every night. And every night she would read to me a Bible story, and then I will fall asleep. And one night, out of the blue, in the middle of the Bible story, she stopped and she said, Richard, I want you to promise me that if you ever get to a position where you can help save the Jewish people, you must do so. And then she continued her Bible story. And then he said to Golda on the phone, Golda, maybe for the first time, I understand why I became President of the United States of America. He hung up the phone. He called the Pentagon, and the largest airlift of armaments since World War II took place in the next 48 hours. That changed everything. Israel survived. The Arabs lost, but they mark it as a victory ever since. Only God knows how you can lose, not even gain a square inch, and still celebrate every year a victory. But all I can tell you that was in 1973, and ever since it was 34 years of silence. Not even a gunshot was shot over there on the Syrian-Israeli border. Until 2007 came. We launched our most sophisticated satellite to the space, named after Prophet Amos. And we got some very disturbing picture. This is the picture of what we saw right there. We saw in the middle of the Syrian desert what we thought was an agricultural farm. Apparently, we saw a great movement of trucks all the way from the port moving, and those trucks were somehow connected to North Korean ships that came to dock there. And when we saw that building in the middle of the desert, it really alarmed us. We understood something is wrong. We paid a visit to the head of the nuclear agency of Syria in his hotel room in Europe. We just walked in, borrowed his laptop for a few hours. We took everything we need to take, and we put it back, I think with a thank you note or a little Israeli chocolate. And then once we developed the pictures, we realized this is a North Korean-made nuclear reactor built by the Syrians under our nose, right there in the middle of the desert. Immediately we turned to the White House. You guys were so busy with Afghanistan, with Iraq, and you needed more proof, so we thought we'll go and get them for you. So we sent a commander team in the middle of the desert. They walked for about 2 days in the middle of the desert in Syria. They scooped some samples of soil. They brought it all the way back to Tel Aviv. We checked it. We sent it to labs, and no doubt, 100% radioactive traces there of nuclear activity right there in that area. Well, we immediately turned to the White House, but your president said, you know what, I'm too busy doing other things right now, but I'm not going to say, do whatever you need to do. And so that was September 6, 2007. Look carefully at that building. It's gone. We thought that they need extra parking space over there in that area. But the great thing of all is that they never admitted that they had it, and we never admitted that we attacked, so it never happened. See, that's how you do things in the Middle East. You don't tell them, well, we're about to attack, we're going to take that many missiles, 2 hours, get ready, is it okay with you, should we change it? You don't do that in the Middle East. If you want to shoot, shoot, don't talk. But that was 2007. We thought they learned their lesson. And then our intelligence saw in 2011, very disturbing thing, the Soviets sold 18 mobile launchers of what we call the Yachunt missiles. These are 300-kilometer range missiles that are from ground to sea, carrying 200 kilograms of explosive in their warhead that can really hit any vessel of the 6th Fleet of the United States Navy over there in that area. And we thought we better put that in the bank of targets for the future. And then, of course, you guys all know what happened. Ever since March 15, 2011, there's a civil war in Syria. I just gave you background for what really went on there. It started with few kids that were mocking the regime. It ended up with the regime shooting during their funeral. It spread out as a popular protest and turned into what we see today. More than 120,000 people died in the last 2 years, almost 2.5 years. And all you see in that map of Syria, look at the red areas. These are the areas that the rebels and the Syrian regime are fighting. And it's a daily thing, and not even a single day passes without hundreds of casualties all over there. Now, the Israeli intelligence realized this is the right time to do some stuff. They're busy killing each other. And so, January of this year, now, I don't know, look, I was never pregnant. I'm sure there were enough women here, sitting here, that were pregnant once. And you know how it goes. You have birth pangs. And birth pangs are like that. You know, it starts, and then it gets stronger and more frequent. You know, I don't know. I just know that I got the squeeze. And the squeeze got stronger and more frequent. That's how I interpret things. And when you see things, you know, 1967, 1973, 2007, and watch what happened ever since January of 2013. January 30th, we saw that there was a convoy carrying an anti-aircraft missile. Now, this is one thing we cannot allow neither the Syrians nor the Hezbollah to have, is those kind of missiles that can target our aircraft, because we want supremacy over there in the air to be able to detect what really is going on. So Israel sent several aircraft, and on January of 30th, we destroyed a whole convoy carrying those anti-aircraft missiles, going all the way, just going from the suburbs of Damascus towards Lebanon to be smuggled to this Hezbollah. Apparently there was an Iranian general there that was heading this whole thing, and he is now realizing that there are no 72 virgins. Someone said, what if there was a spelling there and it's a 72-year-old virgin over there? And you're saying to yourself, what kind of a religion it is that's what motivates the people? It's all about that kind of thing. It's just awful. And then you see that this guy is gone, the missiles are gone, and then came the month of May. May 3rd, 2013, Iranian cargo plane is landing in the suburbs of Damascus loaded with Fateh 110 surface-to-surface missiles. We understand this is the right time to do something, or else something bad will happen. We destroyed that aircraft and the entire facilities, the storage place, with everything. A couple days later, we realized there's more there. Apparently, earlier shipment arrived, and apparently it's right in the area where they produce chemical weapon. So on May 5th, 2013, we destroyed the CERS Military Research Center, which we believe was holding also chemical weapons over there. It has been completely destroyed. Now, I'm sure you never heard of that, by the way. Good. That's a good job then if you never heard of it. And then came July 6, 2013. Do you remember those missiles that the Soviets sold them? Well, July 6, 2013, we destroyed those mobile launchers right on the ground. It's gone. It's history. So, listen to this. Now we have several attacks. Now watch. Nothing happened since 1973, then 2007, then ever since the beginning of 2013, look how many times, and look at the month of May, and now July, and we just passed August, and it's getting more and more frequent. Do you understand that these are birth pangs? Something is about to happen. Damascus is in the center of world attention. Now, let's understand, Syria is the largest manufacturer of chemical weapon in the Middle East. Not only that Saddam Hussein smuggled everything he had into Syria, but they have facilities where they produce it. And we're talking about sarin gas, the Tabun, the VX, and even mustard gas. Now, mustard because of the smell that reminds you of mustard. But we're talking about deadly gases that can, a pinhead of one of them can probably kill scores of people right here. So you can imagine if you have 100 tons of sarin gas, that's a lot. And they've been producing and storing that for many, many years. And Syria has it. Everybody knows it has it. And it's no surprise that they used it. I don't really get it. Well, I know now what I didn't know a few months ago. Why is it that suddenly your president decided that they use chemical weapon? You need to understand, folks, that maybe, yes, August 21st, 2013, those northeastern neighborhoods of Damascus were shelled with 15 sarin warhead rockets, and more than 1,400 people died. But just so you understand, and it must be very clear, Israel reported at least 4 cases of use of chemical weapon starting from January of this year. You have to understand, we're talking about scores of dead bodies in different parts, in the city of Homs, in the city of Aleppo, and of course now in Damascus. We're talking about December 23rd, 2012. There's a gas attack that killed 7 civilians in the rebel-held city of Homs. March 19, 2013, missile armed with chemical materials may have been fired, and that's obviously in the city of Aleppo. April 29, another chemical attack that was reported. This is not the first one. So you're asking yourself, if a red line was drawn, why is it that now suddenly you decide that it has been crossed? Now comes the deal. Now we must understand that. There are many countries involved in this whole thing. You're probably saying to yourself, how come Russia is so stubborn about this Syria thing? How come the president of Russia is insisting that nothing happened, that it's not the president that is responsible, that there's not enough proofs, when you can count the bodies? It's all over there. Well, you understand, Russia may not be interested in any of the political or religious conflict in the Middle East. Russia is very focused on one thing: gas and oil. In fact, June of last year, June of 2012, the Russian president, aboard his huge airplane, landed in Tel Aviv with about 200 people on board. When the Israeli authorities received the passengers list, we were shocked. Now, 200 people, not from the government, not from the security agencies. These are all oil and gas industry people. When he landed and he came to visit Prime Minister Netanyahu, he talked about Syria for 10 minutes, about Iran for 20 minutes, and about gas and oil for 4 hours. We learned from my sources that I learned about 2 days later that what was offered on the table in that meeting was, give us a share in your gas and oil that you just found, and I will not back up Iran anymore. Later on, that conversation was leaked to the media. In fact, The Commentator, which is an online magazine, leaked that on August 24th, and he says, has Russia sold out Iran for a stake in Israeli gas? Interesting. Now, this past August, the first week of August, the Saudi Crown Prince, which is the head of the intelligence in Saudi Arabia, arrived and visited President Putin in his ducha, in his big mansion outside of Moscow. And what was leaked from that meeting later on by the British magazine, The Telegraph, he said to this President Putin, we understand Russia's great interest in the oil and the gas in the Mediterranean from Israel to Cyprus. And we understand the importance of the Russian gas pipeline to Europe. We're not interested in competing with that. We can cooperate in this area. You understand, the Saudis understand exactly how the Russians think, and the Saudis are coming with an offer based on the fact that they understand the Russians care all about the oil and the gas. It's not about anything else. But it's very interesting because that meeting is something that most of you probably never heard of. The Saudis offered Russia billions of dollars, cash, an oil deal, if they drop their support in President Assad. Now let's make it very clear. Should Assad fall, Russia loses its grip on that naval base it has. It will no longer have access to the gas and the oil reservoirs in the Middle East between Egypt and Cyprus, and Russia is not interested in it. President Putin told the Saudi prince, listen, those rebels are barbarians. I saw videos of them eating a liver of someone dead. I'm not going to let them run Syria and risk my interest in the Middle East. Well, then came something that really made the Syrian president angry. The Saudi prince said the following thing. Saudi prince was quoted saying, Mr. President, I can give you a guarantee to protect the Winter Olympics in the city of Sochi on the Black Sea next year. The Chechen groups that threaten the security of the games are controlled by us. Do you understand what the Saudis just did? They admitted that they are a regime that funds and control terrorists and use them as they want for their own interest in the Middle East and all around the world. When the Russian president heard that kind of a threat between the lines, he almost kicked that Saudi prince out of his house. And he said, you're out of here. I am going to back up Iran, and in case something happens to Syria, let me tell you, mister, I'm going to allow Iran to do whatever Iran wants to you guys. Now, probably you're saying, wait a minute, I thought the whole thing is Syria, Obama, Europe. No. Ladies and gentlemen, the Middle East has been engaged in a conflict within the Muslim world ever since the year 632 AD. Muhammad died that year, and the question was, who will succeed that person? Will that be his nephew? Or will that be the father of his wife, who was his follower, his student? Well, the father of his wife took the reins, Abu Bakr, and he became the one who continues, the imam, the second imam, and then came the third. Ali, who was the nephew, became the fourth imam, but his son was killed, so no one will really succeed him, and then everything moved back to the followers rather than the descendants of Muhammad. And ever since the 7th century AD, the battle in the Middle East is really between Sunni and the Shiites. The Sunnis are those who follow the students of Muhammad. The Shiites, it's called Shiite Ali, which is the party of Ali. They are those who believe that Islam should continue with the direct blood descendants of Muhammad. That's it. But that's what this whole thing is all about. Who will continue? Who has the legitimate, rightful ownership of continuation of Islam? And ever since, they've been killing each other for decades. Now, Iran is the mother of Shiite Islam. Saudi Arabia is the mother of Sunni Islam. That's exactly what is going on in the Middle East. Do we understand that? Are we on the same page? Behind the scenes, America is now basically is doing the dirty battle for who? For the Saudis. Russia is fighting for Assad to stay. He's backed up by who? The Iranians. Iran and Saudi are pulling the strings, and Russia and America are in the front line. That's what you see. And the things you don't see is that which happens within the Muslim world. Do we understand that? Now, I don't understand how come 1,400 people dead are more important than 120,000 that died in the last 2.5 years. But I can tell you one thing. You're in trouble. America almost lost any respect and support amongst its own allies in the Middle East. Because if the money time comes and you are not really speaking in loud and clear voice, then what's going to happen when you're going to face bigger challenges like Iran and nuclear weapons and not chemical ones? And that's what Israel is asking, that's what Lebanon is asking, that's what Turkey is asking, and that's what even Egypt and Jordan are asking. I can say that we live in historical times when I can officially tell you that America has come to an end of its domination in the Middle East. Do you understand that? Now, why are you so sad? The Bible never said in any verse of any Bible prophecy that America will dominate the Middle East forever. We're watching things that are historically amazing and biblically accurate. Now watch this. We're looking at Iran right now, and I don't know why you guys are calling this unbelievable star a moderate one. This guy is fooling all of you. Why? He is considered as a moderate because, unlike Ahmadinejad, he is not saying what he's thinking. Ahmadinejad was a very common person, not a politician. Everything he had here came out of here. I hate the Jews, I hate the Jews. I want to destroy Israel, I will destroy Israel. Very simple and that only got him in trouble. Sanctions and more sanctions. This new guy comes and says, you guys are crazy. Are you out of your mind? We don't have to tell the world what we really think. We have to tell the world what the world wants to hear. And regarding what we do, leave it to me. He was just elected a couple months ago, and just a few days ago, the UN Atomic Agency reported Iran ups nuke activity. That's August 28, less than a week ago. Iran is in business of accelerating its nuclear plan and not stopping it. But you guys are giving him time. You think he's a moderate. Well, of course, he is as moderate as the Benghazi is spontaneous attack. And as The Fort Hood is workplace violence. That's what moderation is, probably. And I want to tell you something, folks. Egypt is watching what's going on. In Egypt, we had a revolution going on there on July 2013, what we call the second revolution. The first one, they removed Mubarak thinking democracy is coming. They just didn't take in calculation that the only body in Egypt that is fully ready to go and win the election is the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood, this is the resurrection of the radical Islam once Turkey abolished the caliphate establishment in the early 1920s. And those Muslim Brotherhood elected Mohammed Morsi, who within 1 year managed to destroy every good thing in Egypt that has been left. We're talking about completely annulling the constitution, beheading all the good and moderate guys in the army, and bringing on people of his own kind. The people, including the military, realized we're going to become second Iran. They went out to the street in July 2013, removed Morsi with the hand and the help of the army, and now there's an interim government. Now, you would think that the Muslim Brotherhood is a very peaceful people. Your president supported them, thinking that that's what the people want, and that's what America wants for them also. What you don't know is that they don't demonstrate with stones or flowers. This is how they demonstrate. They have weapons and they shoot, and scores of Egyptian policemen and military people died in the last clashes, and no one here knows about it. That's why they're so strict with them. That's why they're so tough with them. Because these people are extremely dangerous, and it's a religious thing. When they demonstrate, they're using the Quran in one hand, and they are actually surrendering to Allah on the other, and they are making very clear to everyone, this is a religious war, it's not a political one. And when they don't get what they want, guess who they're going after? 40 churches were burned the day after. 40 Coptic churches burned by the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. That's not political, that's religious. How many of you heard that there's a country called Sudan? Good. Well, Sudan is right south of Egypt. Iran was using Sudan to smuggle weapons all the way to destroy Israel from it. Israel decided enough is enough, and October 23rd, 2012, we sent our F-15s 1,200 miles distance to drop several bombs and to light out the skies of Khartoum, and that's how it looked like on October 23, 2012. Did we tell you anything? Does the world know about it? No, but it's gone. It's over. They don't have it anymore, and they're very angry. And it's interesting because you're looking and you see that that's not the only thing you have. You have also in Turkey a government that is very radical Muslim, and the people went out to the street and showed their discontent and displeasure with what is going on there. And the Turks are blaming Israel for all the riots in the Middle East. It's so great to be a country that is so necessary. I said, why don't you blame us for the monsoons or the typhoons, and that's it? But I can tell you one thing, folks. Everything comes to the right place according to the plan of God. Think about it. Think about it. America. How can America stay strong and the strongest and the most amazing ally when the Bible is not even mentioning America coming to help Israel in Ezekiel? What we see in the last few years is a colossal failure, both in foreign policy, where you go and put the wrong people to control Libya and then you get Benghazi, when you go and support the wrong people in Egypt that nearly destroyed them and brought them back to what Iran is today, when you're going to help Al-Qaeda in Syria, and Israel, you're so obsessed with the Israeli-Palestinian issue as if this is what it's all about, and you're sending the Secretary of State like 15 times in the last 2 months as if nothing else happens in the Middle East and hundreds of thousands of people are not dying all over that area. That's obsession do you really think there will be peace over there? I mean, just you to know, the Palestinians have 2 governments, 2 prime ministers, 2 foreign ministers. Who do we talk to? Who do we sign the deal with? If we do it with this one says it's not with me. If we're doing it with this one says it's not with me. So I don't understand what you're talking about. So you put so much effort into the wrong things, you neglect the things that should be taken care of. What about your financial situation? Oh, I'm not going to talk about it right now, because you're looking so depressed right now. I really want to cheer you up right now. I want to tell you, folks, that think about it. America's weakening is something that the Bible had long ago predicted. And think about it, folks. Everything eventually will culminate right there in Israel. Why? Because when everybody else is suffering right now, do you know what's going on in our country? I tell you this. We find gas. We find oil. Our economy soars. In fact, the Energy Tribune reported Israel targets energy superpower status. And it says in that thing that if Israel is going to exploit all of its energy sources, including the shale deposits inside the country, we will be reaching the status of a superpower. Now you understand, they're all killing each other, we're prospering, it's easy to hate us.